coaches are in. When you need a timely, transparent friend, tune into the coaches are in. Talking career, business, health, and wealth. You've got a friend now. Into the coaches are in. With authenticity, come on, let's take a seat and tune in.
Welcome to The Coaches Are In. This episode is brought to you by The Speaker. Well, we're back for another episode of The Coaches Are In, where we have real, raw, and relatable conversations to help you move to your next level. I'm Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon, CEO of Powerhouse Coaching, Operations Extraordinaire, Alignment Coach, author, speaker, and publisher, and creator of The Coaches Are In. And let my co-hosts introduce themselves to you.
Hello, my name is Joyce Dungy Proctor. I am the founder and president of Seminars by Joyce, the Total You Inc., and A Captivating Careers with yours truly, Joyce Dungy Proctor. I get the opportunity to work and mentor professionals and women who desire to create a captivating career, build a powerful personal brand, and accelerate their path to creating influence, impact, and income.
I'm Allison Garrett. I am your behavioral interventionist for women.
Hey everyone, I am Dr. Turner, Dr. Malika specifically. I am the founder of The Speaker LLC, and I'm also an author and life coach, and I will be your confidence coach.
Yes. Thank you, ladies. All right, so we are kicking off this episode as usual with our Coach Talk, where we answer a viewer question. So the question that we have this week, she says, hi there. I am a 36-year-old professional who is already feeling insecure in my new job. I'm the only woman executive in meetings, and I don't feel respected or heard, but I'm new and don't want to make waves. So what do we have to say about that?
So she's new. So number one, she's new, and I'm trying to think about why she may feel that way. One of the things that comes to mind is this something that has been a part of who she is? Or is this solely because she is new? Again, examining the why. Why is she feeling that way? Has she experienced this before? And what is it about the meeting? Is it the meeting? Is it the environment? Or is it her? I mean, is she feeling, just straight insecure because of things that have happened in the past?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's definitely something to explore. And then even to take it a little bit further, when you think of what she said, right, as being new for anyone, it could be, something that would make you fearful, or there's some level of anxiety. You're the new kid on the block, you're on the team, and you don't want to, you want to be a part, but there's just some hesitation. But saying that, feeling insecure, but I think for me, it's more of the idea of making waves, right? I would really need to find out what does making waves mean to you? Like, what is that really? If we can identify what is making waves, do you feel like, like saying things are going to be opposing, or maybe you don't feel like what you have to say is important? So I would say the way to really start off is identify what is this making waves thing, and then shift the perspective, right? It's a mindset, right? So her mindset is saying making waves is a bad thing, but I would challenge her to think, what if making waves is I have input, I'm at the table, right? I have the seat. So that could mean, or should mean to her, that she has an equal voice and equal value, and she should share it in the meeting. And it might not be all at once, but just little by little. The making waves, it got to be a good thing.
You know what? just taking a little piece of what you all have said. Listen, after we find out all of that, I'm all about saying, look, you belong there.
Yes.
Because sometimes the mindset, you've got to attack that mindset through what you say, what you rehearse over and over. So I would want to know, what are you saying to yourself when you go into those meetings? What, are you dealing with that imposter syndrome? Like you don't feel like you belong there? Listen, if you got the job, if you're qualified and you got it and you have that seat at the table, then you need to rehearse some things in your mind and begin to do some exercises to help you catch up with what you're saying. You belong there. So use your voice, make the waves that need to be made that contribute to the company, right? Because sometimes you have to do that, but I would really be encouraging her and pushing her to really go forth and be the great woman that she is at 36 in an executive position.
Yes. I love that. Right. 36 in an executive position. Sis, you're doing it. Keep doing it. Don't let these people throw you off your focus. Right. So I do appreciate her question because I think that we probably all have some similar experiences where, we quote unquote have a seat at the table, but don't necessarily feel welcome at that table.
Right.
I would say I agree with everything that the three of you said. I think evaluation is definitely necessary because she did say she doesn't feel respected or heard. Is it possible that that's in her head because of, this imposter syndrome that she might be experiencing? Or is that the reality that she's not being respected and heard?
Mm-hmm.
So I think she needs to take some time to really evaluate, looking at what is happening in the meetings. Right. Is she being cut off, talked over, not giving an opportunity to speak, or even she says something and it doesn't make any sense, and then someone else, obviously a man in the room because she's the only woman there, says the exact same thing using different words, and all of a sudden it's a great idea, right? So let's see if this is a real situation, and if she finds evidence that it is, then she needs to advocate for herself,
right?
And right. I think that would start with her direct supervisor or manager, leader, whatever the title would be. And having that conversation with that person who hopefully is not a man as well.
Right.
But if he is the person who made the hiring decision to bring her into that role, hopefully, he would, even if he didn't recognize that was happening, because it's possible he could be supportive of her, but not realize that that is what actually is happening, that he would begin to advocate on her behalf as well. And right. Obviously, if that doesn't work, and you need to have either individual conversations with the people who are treating you this way, which I do recommend before you head off to HR, you try to resolve it with these people first. And if that doesn't work, or, they're just not trying to hear you, the behavior gets worse or whatever, and you have to make it a human resources issue, then you certainly do that. But you don't let people, push you out, make you feel that you're less than or not worthy of being there, because obviously you are. Unless you're a relative of a leader, businesses typically aren't in the business of hiring unqualified people. You know what I mean? So yes. If you got the job, it's because they thought that you could do it. Not everybody in the organization may be welcoming, but the truth is, that's their issue and not yours. Keep showing up, sis.
That's right.
Keep showing up, doing what you do. If somebody tries to steal your idea, check them. You can do that professionally.
Yes.
But, somebody just restated what you said. That's exactly what I just said. There's ways to call people out on some things and, let them know this is not how this thing is going to go down here. Exactly. Right. But I do believe, she has to first evaluate, and she has to be willing to advocate for herself, along with believing in herself and the fact that she deserves to be there and she has something to contribute. And some of it may just be a test. Let's see how she's going to respond. We're going to do what we do, because some organizations, Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And they may just want to see if she's going to stand up for herself. And if she does, that may solve the problem right there. But yeah, I think a lot of women, and especially Black women, when you hit these higher levels of positions and organizations, you have to deal with this. Even if it's not with men, it could be with other women as well.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who's in student affairs. She's in an executive position. And what she did was found a support group, a group of women across the country who are in the same role, who have created a group, like a group me, where they're able to have conversation. Hey, this is the scenario I'm dealing with right now. What do you all recommend? And developing those kinds of relationships with women who are on that level with you. And these are Black and brown women. So, even that, I mean, it's kind of early. That might be long term. But I think that's so critical to have a support group that you can relate to and share and get feedback and advice from.
And that may not happen in the organization that you're in.
Exactly. Exactly.
Got to seek some assistance outside of that organization, because there potentially is a level of mistrust. If she's already having these feelings of insecurity, then feeling like it would be non-productive to go to someone in the organization may necessarily be a challenge first off as well.
Right.
Yes. So we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back to talk about this a little bit more.
Hey, beautifuls, it's your girl, Dr. Malika, host of the Pivot Podcast. Listen, on Wednesday, June 7th, we will be back with some inspiring stories from amazing women who are courageous and who are excited to share about how they've made intentional or unexpected changes in their life. And guess what? We talk about how they're still winning. So I want you to mark your calendar and be with us on June 7th as we talk about women who are on the move. You can hear us on Spotify or Apple Podcast.
All righty. So, of course, I want to spend a little bit more time responding to our viewers' question, and I'm gonna start with my input, just a little something. When you're new in a position, whether it be an executive role or not, this is your opportunity to position your brand to shine. That's number one. And in order to do so, you have to teach people how to interact with you. If she goes into a particular role and she allows certain things to happen in the beginning, then she's giving people permission to treat her a certain way. So this is what I say to this. And this is really a good, wonderful question, because it happens to so many people. And for our viewers, this is what I really want you to take away, is that, as everyone said before, you have this seat at the table. This is your opportunity to utilize your transferable skills and everything that you've done up until this very moment. Make sure that you're using positive self-talk for yourself. Don't believe everything you think. It could be your perception and not even a reality. But let's say that it is a reality. If it is a reality, then you're going to gain the support of the person who hired you or the leader. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to manage your emotions. Good. You're going to manage your emotions. You're going to be self-aware. That's where that whole emotional intelligence piece comes in. But ladies, come on, chime in, because I know that we've all had an experience like this at some point in times in our career. So let's talk about it.
I know for sure I have often found myself being not only the only Black person, but the only Black woman in many situations, and having a seat at the table. And I think everything that everyone said plays into how I was able to overcome that, right? I did feel like initially that what I had to share was not important, because I always viewed what other people said as, wow, that's great, because I never really had that experience for myself. Like I didn't have the cheerleaders. I didn't have people saying that what I was doing was great. So I had, just traumatic experiences taught me that being in a room with other people, they were automatically more important than me. But when your girl learned,
I love it.
When your girl learned that what I had to share was important, and I had to let other people know that I felt that way, it's like an instant change, right? So I walk in a room, and I think you said it, Dr. Malika, it's like you walk in with that confidence, knowing that what I have to share is going to be impactful and meaningful, and there's a reason why I'm there. Now, what I did have to actually practice was listening, so that I was not saying something just to show off, right?
That's good.
Because I got like that too. I'm like, well, I'm just going to say something. I just stand up and say something just because I want to be heard.
You don't have nothing to do with what the conversation is.
I'm like, yeah, whatever. Just, and then I didn't want to come off as that angry Black woman either, right? I didn't want to come in and feel like I'm trying to take over. So once I learned how to listen and pay attention to what they were actually contributing to the conversation with my knowledge, everything shifted. So I think a lot for me had to do with being more authentic and not just wanting to be heard because I was the only one in the room that looked like me, but actually presenting information that was helpful so that other people could receive it, regardless of who I am, what I look like, and where I've come from.
Yeah, I think the battle that I've dealt with is the messages that I rehearse in my mind. And for me, the first message are the negative message, in my past, like, coming up, it was like, especially when I was new in my profession, it was like, I'm not good enough. You're first of all, you don't have a degree in this profession. Okay, it's by the grace of God that you're here and you don't have the degree. So you don't really know, they're more knowledgeable than you. And so there's that insecurity, right? The things that I would rehearse in my mind. But I agree with you. I think it really is what you practice outside of those venues, like outside of those environments. What am I practicing? What am I saying to myself? And I will say this very quickly. One thing my grandmother said to me growing up, she said, "You are somebody." And I know that seems so simple, but she was an older woman with no education, but that was mother wit. And she would say, "You are somebody. I don't care who's in the room. You are somebody," meaning you are significant. And I had to rehearse that so that when I showed up in those environments, "You are somebody" came before "You don't have a place here." So I think it really does start with what you say to yourself. That self-talk is critical. It is critical. And I have some powerhouses around me who would speak to me and who would really pour into me and tell me the things that I needed to hear that would coincide with "You are somebody."
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. I think we can do another episode on having people in your life that speak life into you as opposed to
Absolutely.
Right. So my earliest experience with this was when I worked at a community college, which will remain nameless, early in my career. And thank God that I happen to look younger than I really am.
Yes, you do, girl.
And it's been that way all my life, right? At least all my adult life. And
I can relate.
Yes. And so often I worked in higher education. And so often I would show up to offices to advocate for a student, and they think I was a student. Or the first time I was going into a meeting with people who I haven't met with before, and it's like, "Can we help you? Like, where are you trying to go?" And it's like, "I'm Sharita Weatherspoon," from the counseling department.
Right.
Being here, right? And at first I thought it was cute, to be quite honest, because it was like, I still look young, But then after a while, it was just kind of like, okay, come on now, first of all, what student do you know is walking around here in a power business suit and stilettos? Okay, so so you
Just saying.
right. So no, I don't. I might look young enough to be a student, but I do not look like a student, and I certainly am not carrying myself like a student. So I found that in meetings and things like that, that I often would have to do a couple of things that I normally wouldn't do in my interactions, like talk over people and like push to be heard, because I found that it was, I guess, an assumption that I was young in my career, that I didn't have anything to offer.
Wow.
That I wasn't bringing anything new to the table or anything like that. So I would have to be in some cases, what I would consider to be rude, and just like, me and another person start to talk at the same time, and they're kind of like, they're not going to stop. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna, I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to raise my voice because I'm going to say what I need to say. And then after a while, and people got to know me and everything, and it's kind of like, okay, she knows something. Just a little something. So I continue to show up.
Right.
And I didn't, referencing what Joyce said, I didn't allow people to just, kind of treat me any kind of way. So they had to know that regardless of what you think I look like,
right,
I have a job to do. I'm going to do that job, and I'm going to do it well.
Right.
Yes, you are. And did.
It's all about how you show up.
Mm-hmm.
Because people can sniff out the newbies and, oh, she's not gonna say anything. Don't get it twisted.
And the fear, they can sniff out the fear as well. So if you are dealing with imposter syndrome, or just this thought that maybe I got here, but I'm not sure that I'm supposed to be here. And you have people there in every organization who can identify the victims. It's like abusers with women. Like, I can identify who I can act crazy with. I'm going to do it until they stop.
I was going to say that it's more of a personality.
Yeah,
Dr. Sharita, one thing that you said so softly, and I'm just going to kind of elevate it, but you talked about the fact, and the way I perceive it, is that you added value. And one thing I can tell you all after 100 years of experience is that when you add value to an organization, and especially to the decision makers, things change.
Yep.
When you're adding value, even if someone would prefer that you not be on the team, the beautiful team, of course, if you're adding value, things change.
You'll be on the team.
You on the team.
Even if they don't understand your style, your background, and anything else. That's all I have to say. When you add value, so when you start to feel, I'm going to say insecure and things like that, and not feeling worthy, and feeling like you've been silenced, and feeling like you don't have a voice, add a little value.
Just a little sprinkle.
You can sip on that one right there.
Let's do that.
That was good.
That's good. So I want to wrap up this segment by just, saying to the viewer, and I hope that she is watching this now, that you're there because you're supposed to be there. And I'm assuming you want to be there, or you would not have accepted the role. So continue to show up. Continue to be who you are. Be authentic, be transparent, provide value, as Joyce said, and just recognize that the feelings of insecurity are normal. So, we're not going to tell you, ignore the feelings when they rise or anything like that. Right. I mean, we're going to be real here. Okay. So you may have those feelings of insecurity. So it's not so much the feelings that are an issue. It's what you do with those feelings.
Yes.
And if you let those feelings basically control your behavior, and your behavior now has you shrinking, not performing the way you can perform, and not contributing the way you can contribute, that's really when it becomes problematic. So recognize the feelings when they come, recognize them for what they are, evaluate the situation. Is this real, or is this just my perception because of my emotional baggage that I'm bringing into this situation? advocate for yourself if you need to, seek help if you need to. But in the midst of all of that, keep showing up.
That's good.
Yes, for
That's
sure.
good.
Showing up. Yeah, so we are going to break for another word from our sponsor, and we will be back with our guest expert. We'll introduce her as soon as we come back.
Hey, beautifuls, it's your girl, Dr. Malika, host of the Pivot Podcast. Listen, on Wednesday, June 7th, we will be back with some inspiring stories from amazing women who are courageous and who are excited to share about how they've made intentional or unexpected changes in their life. And guess what? We talk about how they're still winning. So I want you to mark your calendar and be with us on June 7th as we talk about women who are on the move. You can hear us on Spotify or Apple Podcast.
Our guest expert today is Nicole Traylor. Nicole is the founder of Mind, Body, and Soul LLC. She is a mental health therapist who provides individual and group therapy for all populations with various diagnoses. She's also a licensed drug and alcohol counselor. Nicole couldn't be in person with us today. She is taking care of business, completing a residency requirement for her doctorate program. All right. But she sent us a video to share with you. So tune in and listen to what she has to say.
It's your girl, Nicole Traylor from Mind, Body, and Soul LLC, your mental health therapist. I want to do a quick check-in with you. Yeah, you. To see how your self-care is going. Right? What's that? Well, it's time you take a moment to do some self-inventory on that. There's this phrase that we hear every day, and we answer to it. The phrase is, how are you? And we're quick to give a response. I'm good. I'm all right. I'm fine. But are you really? Day in and day out, you are doing the most for everybody else and not taking into account that you're on empty. You found that vision. You're walking in your purpose. You wrote it down. You made it plain. Kudos to you, LLC. You're doing it. But how are you doing it? There was this study done at Northwestern University, and it was talking about the 8 areas of wellness that we should all aspire to take inventory on and check in on to make sure that we are having a good balance with our wellness. And the 8 areas are emotional, spiritual, social, physical. I mean, who couldn't do a better job of that? Intellectual, occupational, financial, and environmental. So they were taking a scale from 0 to 5 just to see exactly where you fall in line. And it's a good time for you, my sister, to take a step back and see exactly where you need to juggle some things to make sure that you are not running on empty. So the next time somebody says to you, hey, how are you? You can then reflect on what we talked about today, that 8 areas of wellness, and you can really do a self-evaluation and look that thing over and say, you know what? I'm doing well. We need you to do well. So take the time and take care of yourself. Do that self-care because we need you. All right, this your girl, Nicole Traylor signing off. Be well.
Well, Miss Nicole, working on her doctorate. She hit me with
That's
the I'm
wonderful.
fine, because I think we can all relate to that. Like, we're used to saying it, so it's very much an automated response. And I think mostly it's because we don't really think about what it really means, right? It's like, I'm fine because you can't help me anyway. So I don't know. What do you ladies think about the whole idea? I love when she talked about the 8 areas of wellness to kind of contribute to that self-care. And some things people may not have even considered to be a part of self-care. So what do you think about self-care and those areas of wellness and always saying I'm fine?
I like the identification of the 8 areas of wellness, and having originally launched my business as a life coach, I'm familiar with those, and I know that most people, when they are kind of evaluating their life and thinking about where they are, they're typically looking at their closest relationships, their job, and their money, maybe their spirituality, but typically not more than that. You have some people who will look at like the physical part of it, but a lot of times that's triggered by health issues or something like that. But most people do not gauge how they're doing by literally looking at every area of their lives, and as a result, areas go unattended to. And like a garden, what happens when you don't tend your garden? Weeds start to grow, and not only do they grow, but they begin to strangle the flowers that are there. So whatever progress you may have made in that area, or the good things that are in that area, if you're not paying attention to those areas, you can find that you're actually moving backwards and losing ground in those areas. So I think, at least just being aware of what those areas are, and then periodically checking in to see, how am I doing, and how satisfied am I with how I'm doing in those areas? Because there may be periods of your life where certain things or certain areas are going to be more important to you than others. So you can't be 100% on in 8 different areas at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to tend to all of them.
Right. I think, you're making some good points. And I think too, there's 2 things that struck me. One, how are you? And I don't know if you all have experienced this, but sometimes I'm like, well, I don't want to be fake and say I'm good, because I'm not good. But I also have reservations about how much to share depending on who's asking me. So, if my girlfriend asks me how I'm doing, it's like, girl. If somebody on my job asks me that I've worked with for a long time, I may not say I'm good, but I also may not want to share with you what's going on in my marriage. So there's so much that you have to weigh. And when you're trying to balance, how you really feel and who you can share that with. The other thing that I think is that as women, we face challenges when it comes to self-care, right? So I think about feeling guilty because I think she talked about that. We spend so much time, doing for others. And so you feel guilty taking that time for yourself. And I do want to speak to younger women who maybe you have young kids and you just feel like you've got it. It's all about the kids right now. And I remember that it's all about the kids. I got to really focus on the kids. And something can die inside of you if you don't feed like who you are, pour into yourself, no matter what that looks like. And I think that that's really, really critical. That's really, really critical.
Really?
Well, ladies, my sisters.
What you got? What you got?
Seminars by Joyce, the Total You Inc. was built on the total you piece. Is we have the right to be total in areas in our lives and in our health and and finances and all of these things. So the top of mind for me has been there forever, right? But because it's been top of mind does not mean that I am doing it I mean, the foundation of my company was based on we have the right and we can be, but clearly, depending on the season, come on now, depending on the season in our lives, depending on so many variables. What I love is that if we can keep it top of mind, if we can have accountability partners to support us, because as women, we carry the weight of so much.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that we don't have a good support system. It's a part of sometimes, let me speak for myself, it's a part of who I am.
Right.
Part of it goes back to what I saw growing up. And then the other part is just who I am and how I'm built. So I've had to make a very conscious effort to balance it. You know, I've been labeled a workaholic.
No.
Yeah. This is confession time. Right? And had to talk to someone about it, if you don't mind my sharing. I had to go away and, have a couple conversations about it to understand what is this? What am I trying to fulfill? So the bottom line is that, the whole work-life balance, the whole self-care. I encourage people to really take it very seriously. I really do. And to find your space where you can show up for yourself, to have your peace, your time. And I've been successful in doing so by scheduling time for me, myself, and I.
Yeah, that's good. You know what this all makes me think about too? Because being in the spa world, so many people equate self-care exclusively to a mani or a pedi or a day at the spa. And while that could be a part of it, because maybe that is your time, maybe that is the only time that you get for the week or every couple of weeks. But I think what's interesting when you think about the 8, just describing it differently with being all these different pieces. I think all of you ladies said it was your time is self-care. Your boundaries are self-care. Saying no, not always saying yes is self-care, right? Doctor's appointments is self-care. And I think Dr. Sharita said it, not just when you have a health challenge, right? Preparing for the future is self-care. So I think if we can start to shift a little bit in our thinking and not only isolating self-care to that time that we go and, get our nails done, get our hair done. We all love that part of it, but it's much more than that.
That's good.
That's good. I love this. I mean, I love this. I love it. I cannot even go on and say how much I love it, simply because what you said, Allison, is that it's not just the mani-pedi, but and I'm just going to say it's our mental health as well. That's a part of our self-care, managing that, scheduling the time for ourselves, but handling our business. So I'm just kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that you said. I love.
Good.
God, I love you, ladies. Go ahead.
No, that's interesting, because I was just talking to someone about self-care, and what I did, Allison, was I said, you need to go. I know you don't like massages, but you should at least go and do this, and they're like, my self-care is learning. I enjoy attending workshops and learning, and just that's something that feeds me. And I was thinking, wow, I like to learn too, but
I want a massage.
That don't really fulfill me. But I love this conversation, and I hope that our viewers I hope this expands their thinking when we talk about self-care, because self-care is what fulfills and pours back into you, builds you, strengthens you, so you can go back out there and pour in and do for others, right? And show up great for the world around you. But that doesn't look the same for every woman.
Right.
Say it again.
That doesn't look the same for every woman.
Thank you.
Note taken.
That's good.
Yes. So why don't we, since we're saying it does not look the same for every woman, why don't we go ahead and share what some of our personal self-care strategies are?
You know, doctor would say that, right?
I will start. You know what? I enjoy, and I've been doing more of it, lighting candles, right?
Okay.
There's something about, for me, there's something about the ocean and there's something about fire. So I have really been purchasing really nice, really big candles, lighting all the wicks and just shutting the lights down and relaxing. I turn off my big light and I close my bedroom door and I go in and it's just me. And no matter what I'm doing, that's my time. And that's something that I do for my self-care. And there was something else that I was thinking about. I do get massages and I do go to the chiropractor and get readjusted.
You get readjusted.
I do get readjusted, okay? But I do, I've had a couple of car accidents, and so my back is not a lot different than it was when I was 30. And so I do get adjusted, but I feel good when I come out of there. And then what I do is get adjusted, and then I'll get a massage maybe 2 weeks later. I don't do that consistently, but I do that, and I find ways to, that just makes me feel good. So
Yeah, that's good. I do something that started probably late last year, and I love traveling, and I had always evaluated that with being a part of my self-care, but because very often I was neglecting myself in that area. So I created something that came from a book that I read, but it talks about the mini quest. So when you can't do these grand vacations all of the time, I make sure that I'm out of my local environment at least once a month. So while some of that may be travel where I'm, away or in another state or city, or maybe on the beach or in another country, not necessarily that on that grand scale, but I go somewhere every single month and I schedule it according to a social calendar, professional development calendar, and I do things outside of my space. So that's my self-care, because I do the hair every week, the mani-pedi, the massages, all that kind of stuff really does help me feel better. But my time away from the day-to-day is where my self-care kind of comes into play.
that's nice.
Well, there's a couple of things. Of course, I do the mani-pedis and all of that, right? I mean, of course. I mean, really, the facials, the massages, all of that. I love to walk. I like to work out, all of that. But one of the things that I like to do, I mean, you travel, I do all of that. But I just like to be. I will come upstairs. I have what they call a lifestyle base. So I lift the back of my head up in my bed, and I'm just there. It's quiet. It's peaceful. Sometimes I may have some music on because I absolutely love music. Love music. And I'm just still. It's giving me an opportunity to be, but then I can kind of think. I'm not moving. I'm not running, and that's something. And I'm breathing, and I can feel my breathing. And this is something that's like a treat that I run upstairs and I look forward to doing it. And so I have that time. The other thing that I love to do, and again, this is my self-care. I love to love up on people. So I have time where I'm sending out beautiful messages and I'm encouraging people, because within those messages, I'm loving and encouraging myself. And those are just a couple of the things that I do outside of some of the things that we all do.
Love that.
Yeah, those are.
I love love. I'm in love with love and loving up on people. I really
like
am.
that.
I love you.
I love you too. Yeah, I mean, I really
appreciate that part of your self-care is about sharing yourself with other people. That's
I
really,
love
really
it,
good.
Doc. I love it. Like this morning when I was over your house, I wanted to just give you a hug, whether you're ready for it or not.
Just grab her.
I did. I gave her a hug.
Right. Yeah. So I've gotten better at the self-care thing in the last 2 years or so. Well, actually, no. Since 2016, I've gotten better. When I transitioned out of my full-time job, something shifted in me for the better. And I got to a point where it was just like, I am no longer the keeper of all things.
Oh yeah.
I am not the liaison for everybody. I am not the household manager. I have too many people who are over 16 in my house to, just be juggling all of these balls and the stress that goes with it. So I began to let things go, and I made other people in my home responsible for things that I had been the only person responsible for.
That's good.
For decades. So that was the
decades.
Yeah, decades. Yes. A hint to how old I
She's like, I said it.
So that started my self-care journey. I could tell people like what the family schedule was, like off the top of my head. Remember I said last episode about my husband asking me about money and stuff. I would know how much is in the account.
Right.
And it was just like, nah, I gotta let that go. Which gave me back time for myself and allowed me to be more present with myself and learn myself better. So now what my self-care routine looks like is it is a weekly, some sort of physical body treatment.
You got to talk about that offline, that new thing.
Yes. So there may be a facial or massage. I do both of those monthly. I do the chiropractor monthly. I also do the stretch lab at least monthly. More recently, it's been every week, but I think I'm gonna go back to once a month. And I do manicures and pedis periodically, not that often because those two things aren't particularly important to me. It's just like, yeah, I like them to look nice, but I don't want to go every week because it's not really relaxing for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that I do in my routine is I have to have daily time to myself because I am a high introvert. And it's not that I don't like being around people, I actually do, but it drains me.
Yeah.
And I have to make sure, even if that is virtually I'm around people, I have to have time by myself to decompress. So I make sure that I do that.
Yep.
And then I'm trying to like physical activity and exercising. It's part
Did
of
you
my
say I'm trying?
I'm trying to like it. I'm doing it, but I don't yet enjoy it. Okay. I'm being honest, but I'm doing it because I know that I need to. It is part of my self-care, even though it is not something that I'm excited to do every day when I do it.
But that's okay.
Thank you for that.
No, but it's okay. It may never become exciting. You may.
I was just gonna say that you may never enjoy it. It just needs to be done.
Probably. Yeah. So I think everything that we've shared, has been great, and I really do hope that our viewers get something from it, not just in terms of potential strategies that they could implement for their own self-care, but also related to what soon to be Dr. Nicole Traylor shared, and how are you really,
right?
And really when you give an answer, giving a truthful answer, even if you're not giving all of the facts that go along with that truth. But sometimes you need to let people know that you're not okay.
Right.
Because that can precipitate you getting the help and the support, that you need. And even if you choose not to share with the person who asks how you are, know how you are, and then do something to become how you want to be.
Right.
That's good.
That's good.
Yep.
Yes. So everyone, our sisters, that is it for this episode of The Coaches Are In. Thank you for joining us, and thanks again to our sponsor. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at The Coaches Are In. And if you'd like to have your question featured on The Coaches Are In, submit it at thecoachesrn.com/Ask the Coaches. That link is right below. And we will see you at the same time, same place next week. But for now, the coaches are out.
The coaches are in. When you need a timely, transparent friend, tune into The Coaches Are In. Talking career, business, health, and wealth. You've got a friend now. Into The Coaches Are In. With authenticity, come on, let's take a seat and tune in.